If you enjoy learning the Cherokee language with RSU TV, join our Signal Society. Your monthly gift of $10 a month ensures that RSU TV can continue to produce programs like the Cherokee language classes. Click the link in the description or call 1-800-823-7210 to join today.
Osionigod, Wade Blevins, Tawadon, Kaliele Nigod Jedo Kohig. Welcome to Cherokee 2 here at RSU TV. I'm Wade Blevins. I'm really glad you're here. He Oginali, Peggy Gertie Flute, and I'll let her say hello as well.
Osio, Kaliele Xujigedo, Jigayu Galad State Lukatawito, Jalagigas.
All right. Well done, Miss Peggy. So we're really happy to have Miss Peggy here again. She was in Cherokee 1 several times, and she also helps us with doing most of the translations for the Cherokee 2 course. So all hours of the night, though, huh?
Right.
So we're really happy to have her here with us. So today is Galqua du Sine Jalaka de Lo Coste, our 17th Cherokee lesson. So without any further ado, come, Idalena Jalaki Diwoni. We'll go ahead and get started, okay? So, as you at home know, the very first thing that we do whenever we start our classes, we usually talk about how to introduce ourselves. That's one of the things that they wanted to be able to do, is to give a short introduction. For example, if you're at a meeting or something like that, what kinds of things would you say? You know, so they've learned how to talk about their name. We've learned how to talk about how old we are. We've learned how to talk about where we're from, where we live, the names of our parents, if we have kids, where we work, our clan. We talked about that a little bit, and we talked about in some communities they talk about clan, in some communities they don't. They prefer not to keep that private. So we discussed that a little bit. And so anyway, what we'd like to do today is, since it's your first time here, we'd like to go ahead and ask you to give a short little introduction, just like if you were at Tri-Council meeting or something like that, and what you would normally say.
Okay. Osio, Kaliele Kohig Jigedo, Hahan, Jigayu Galad Stawato, Jalagigat, Don Nugo, the Gega, Non Squisty Janelle, Sawa, a church Agika, Decano Dust, do don't, Ale Hosti Nail, Dana do don't, Jay look, not Jay look it, Jurosa, Don Nugo, though there's qua. Now let Doggylows down there, Cave Springs, Doggylows down there, Jalak, Jadega de Hoska, Tuskin, no, now you get here, no, Wade, or Genealogy, Daily, Nigadane, I'll now a nigga do Waggy Council, Dodger Lower School, now school, Doggylows down there. Galiele, Exil, need you, Aunt you get the Kohig.
Well done. All right. So thank you very much. Hopefully you at home, you were able to follow. Almost everything that she talked about in there were things that we have gone over. So she talked about her name. She talked about her children. She talked about her work. Talked about where she lives. She talked about her husband. And she talked about being happy to be here. So remember, we talk about, you can say Galiele Gigedo, and that means I'm glad that you guys are here. Or you can say Galiele Gigedo, I'm glad that I'm here. You know, so just one little sound makes a big difference.
Or Galiele Chedo.
Chedo, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, glad you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So after we finished the introductions, we decided to replace the introductions with a little bit of a reading study. And this was kind of inspired by both you and Jawayuki Sue. Thompson, or Sue Gertie Thompson, because I remember her telling me that when she started to read, she learned, her grandma taught her to read by using the Bible.
Right.
And I remember you talking about your mom and how your mom can read the Bible without stumbling over anything. She could just read it, you know, like a duck in water. And so I was like, well, I need to challenge myself because I don't read in syllabary that often. And so I've made it a point to challenge myself to read as much as possible in syllabary and to challenge the students also to do the same. And because the more we do it, the better we get at it. And so so every week I've been choosing a short little Bible verse and we try to read through it and then we talk about it and so maybe you could help us with today's. So
I'm kind of the same way. Whenever I was teaching, I did read syllabary quite a bit. But since I haven't been teaching, I don't really read syllabary as much, and we talk a little bit. We do a little bit more phonetics than syllabary.
Yeah.
So this is good too. You know, this is good for me. You know, to get back to Jalakohuetla.
Oh, good. Well, I know, especially for us as learners, I feel like phonetics is a good place to start. Because, you know, for example, one sound like duh, it could be duh or it could be tuh, depending on how it is in the word, you know. But we don't know that when we read the syllabary, you know, unless we know the word. And so that's kind of why I rely really heavily on my phonetics, because I'll put tuh instead of duh.
Right. Okay.
But I think a good strategy for us as learners is once we get comfortable with those words to switch over to the syllabary, because now we know the word and we can make those adjustments as we read them. So this says mo si ika yi u wo hui la na hi a ge yi a ya. So there's an example there. You know, this right here says do usually, but I know ya totla because it's chapter, which if I, you know, and jo sko hi sa gu hi ne u da ka. Udalska. Okay, this is udalka, but udalska. Udalska. So, Moses, ikayi, the first. Uwohuelanahi, what he wrote.
Writing.
Writing.
First writing.
His first writings. And so this is the Cherokee translation for the book of Genesis, correct? Okay. Agayi, first, ayatotla, chapter. Joskohi sawuhine, 31st, udalka, verse. Okay, so this says, une la nahino, but today we usually say une tlanahino. U go he ni ga u wo tlanai ale kani you go kani, is that
Kani? It's not kani you go like clear. You know, it's clear.
It's clear. Yeah. Okay. Kani you go ho o see you que say.
Okay.
U seno. Usano, we would say usano, right?
Okay.
Usano.
Usano. Is you talking about
the morning.
Nighttime? No, that's
not.
The
night, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the usano.
Yeah. At first I thought that meant no, like and. But,
yeah, I did
but
too.
But when you're reading the rest of it, I think it's going to be saying night and day, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll read through the rest and see if we can suss it out. Ale and sunale, morning, right? Sudaline igage say. Okay. So unetlana hino and God, right? And the provider. Ugo go he saw. Ni ga all.
Nè gõ,
Wo tlana
He
all
saw
that
everything that he made.
he
Yeah.
made. Okay. Ni ga wo tlana everything he made. Ale and kaniuko. He and it was clear.
Yeah, like it was evident.
It was
It was
evident.
evident, yeah.
Okay. Ho o see you ge say it was
It was evident that it was good. Yeah.
Now what did this word ho? What it just sticks out there in the middle. I don't understand.
And I think that's just kind of like an emphasis sound
Okay.
in there. Is what it sounds like to me. Look pretty in there, but it's kind of look weird in there. But
Yeah, I
it
thought
has
so
to.
too.
It has to, and it doesn't really go with the next.
Yeah, the next part.
No, I think it goes with this, more of an emphasis, I
Okay.
would say, yeah.
Okay.
You going home,
Okay.
or see you, yeah, say,
Okay.
okay,
Useno.
okay.
We would say usano.
Usano.
And the night.
Uh-huh.
Usano. Like for example, you can say ku usa
Cool.
tonight or this evening,
yeah,
right?
this evening.
Yeah.
This night, yeah, in the nighttime.
I remember when we would do JOM back when I worked for Johnson O'Malley. I remember Miss Reba. She would say, "Galieli jijedo ko usa." I'm glad to be here that you're here this evening.
Yeah,
You know. So
okay.
usa
Okay.
no ale and sunale the morning.
Yeah, Shinole.
Now, what is the difference between sunale morning and sunale tomorrow?
Sinole.
Sinale.
And mine is just a location thing, where I say, and it is in the Bible, it does have the su sound on there. And some people use that, but whenever I say sunole, it's hard for me to say sunole unless I'm reading it. I would say sinole.
Sinale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like morning time.
Morning time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sinole.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Sinale.
Sinale.
Okay.
That I sound on there tells you, if it's morning time for right there or if it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow morning.
Okay. Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Wado. Sudaline. Sudaline, the sixth. Ego day.
Day.
Que saying it
It
was.
was the sixth day. When he made day and night, it was the sixth day.
Sixth day.
Yeah.
All right. So would you go ahead? Would you read this for us?
You got it, I'll try. I know I'm not going to be as good as Mom, but praise the Lord. I love listening to her read when she reads from the Bible. Okay, Moshe, iga yi uwo hui la na aga yi ya tosla josko hi sa wu sine udashka. Okay, I always want to put that e on the end. Udashka. Okay, unehla nahi no ugohe niga uwosla nahi ale kani you go hey ho or see you get say I'm trying to sound that, make it sound the way it's supposed to be for it to add together. Okay, ale kani you go home. Guess or see you. Guess say sa it's say no. Ale sunale sudaline iga guess say.
Good.
And as I'm reading this, I'm trying to grasp, the how it, if it's written, because some of these sounds you don't say them out when you're reading this.
When
And that's
you're
what I'm
talking.
saying. When Mama reads this, she doesn't have to stop and say she just reads it and it makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. So, and I think that just comes with practice.
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah. Because I think
yeah.
it's the same in English. Because again, my daughter, she's
Right.
she's 7 and she's in first grade and she's learning to read and hates to read,
Right,
by the
right.
way. And we keep telling her, because she has to do that too. She'll get to a
Right.
word and she'll have to sound it
Sound it
out and
out,
kind of
yeah,
play with it,
yeah.
and then it'll come to her. She'll be like, "Oh,
yeah,
window,"
yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
and then she's got it. And I think it's the same for
and you have
for
to,
us.
You have to. It has to say, "Oh, I get it. It makes sense," before it'll make sense as you're reading it.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to know what you're reading in order to
Yes.
know if it makes sense or not.
I told them the story about whenever I first started at Cherokee Nation, they asked me to take that fluency or that Cherokee proficiency test
Yeah.
with Miss Anna, and of course back then that test was a lot of reading in Cherokee, and of course I knew my syllabary, and so boy, I just flew through it and I just did it, and she's like, "Wow, you did really, really good," and then she's like, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure," and she said, "Did you know what you were reading?" I said, "Nope, I had no clue." but I knew all my syllabary
Right,
characters,
right.
but she could tell because she could see me reading. She was like, "He don't have no clue what he's talking about." I said, "Well, it has something to do with a rabbit. I know that."
Yeah.
So we laugh about that, But all right, well, don't. So now the next thing that we usually do is we do kind of what I like to call like a conversational word, something that I use with my daughter all the time, like want or hawk squads or those kinds of things that they can take from today and immediately use it just as it is.
Okay.
I chose this one, taseka. Count, because I've got a little one, we count a lot,
Right,
so taseka. And then let's count, didseka. That's
Okay.
like us count together, right?
Okay. If I was going to say you and I, let's you and I count, I would say inseka.
Inseka.
Yeah, that's how you inseka.
Inseka.
Yeah.
Let's us do it.
Let's count. Yeah, let's you and I count.
Okay.
Okay. The inseka. It can be the same thing. Is that
Oh, it should be Dean, right?
yeah, din seka.
Din
It's like
seka.
your okay, you say ta seka, you count.
Yeah.
Din seka, you and I count. And then if you want to say they're counting on sek,
On sek.
yeah, on sek.
Deed
yeah.
sek.
Yeah.
You all
You
count.
all count. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I found doing this with you translating, the more I said a word, it just kept getting wronger and wronger.
Weirder and weirder.
And I'd ask my husband, I'd say, "Am I saying this right?" Because he just looks at me like, "Okay, you're the one that's supposed to be translating." But the more I say a word, even in English, sometimes if
Yeah.
you say a word over and over again, sometimes it gets to where
It
it's
starts
not
to
even
sound
sounding-
wrong,
Yeah, it sounds
yeah.
strange, But when you say that, ta seka, din seka.
Dean seka.
Yeah, let's count.
do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like let's do
Yeah,
it together.
yeah.
Okay. Good. Now, is there a difference in, like, if you're asking somebody to count, is there a difference in counting it out loud or like counting it on a piece of paper, or is it the same taseka?
Tosheka, ho way lug.
Oh, read it.
Yeah,
Read it.
No, write it.
Or write it.
Yeah, ho way lug.
D says.
Yeah, D says they seka as you're counting.
Oh.
Or you can say higolia.
Read it.
Yeah, not the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Read it. It's not really.
D says.
There is a different. You change it a little bit if you're going to say, to write it or to read it.
Okay.
In there, but it still has that root sound in there.
Okay.
And I'm not really into, like root words,
And
where it
grammar,
comes from,
yeah.
things like that.
Right.
So, but I know that a lot of words have that same sound in that word somewhere, even though you add stuff to the beginning and the end,
Yeah.
that sound is still in there.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I find interesting is sometimes there's so much stuff around it that finding the root in
Right.
there
Right.
Can't even find
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You know, when we were doing that one story about beheading somebody.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it still had the head in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, but it
Yeah.
had some sounds in the front of it and the end of it. It kind of just lost that you know.
The head in
yeah,
there.
the head in there. Yeah.
Literally, right?
Yeah,
Lost their
yeah.
head. All right. So that brings us to we did this song.
Okay.
This is what we did in the last story, and it's a German song called Baka Baka Kuchen, which means bake a cake.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and so I'll just read through. I'll try to read the syllabary
Okay,
only.
okay.
So Gadu Uganaste, Ichidu Haga,
Okay.
Di,
Okay.
Di Gadu Husky. Digadu husky,
Okay.
Osta gadu uganasti, Yi jaduli, Jadu husty. Whew. He anon sudali ga kli sodi. Like mixed together, right? Jewage, goi, call sage, unadi, ale, isa, osi, hui klugi, gadu, uganasti.
Okay.
So, hui klugi is it?
Hui klugi, put it in there.
Put it in
Yeah,
there.
or yeah.
So, gadu uganasti,
Gadu, uganasti.
Is like baked goods.
Yeah, the sweet God, the bread, uganasti, that's sweet, a sweet bread.
So, and in this case, it's cake, but it could also be a cookie.
Right,
Could
right.
be a brownie.
Right.
But it can't be a pie.
No, there's a word for a pie.
Different word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently we're really
Right.
into pie because
Yeah.
we put a whole separate
Yeah,
word for that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you you all bake it.
Yeah, you
right?
bake it. Yeah.
Yeah, you
You
all
bake
bake it. Audi says.
Yeah, he said. Yeah.
Digadu husky, the baker.
The baker. Oyster.
Osta, good. Gadu, uganasti, cake. Yijaduli, if you want. Jadu, husty.
If you want to bake.
If you
do
want to
this,
bake
if you
it.
want to bake it.
He ano, the and these. Suda, 6.
6.
Gatli sodi.
And that's kind of like get it together.
Ah.
Like your ingredients.
Ah,
get
okay.
it together. This is what you got to get together. Have to get together in order to do this.
Aha,
Yeah.
okay. Jueji, eggs, goi.
Grease or lard.
Yeah. Call sage, sugar,
Salt.
salt. Now, if it was almond,
Yeah,
that would be
yeah,
water,
yeah.
right? Which actually you use in baking a cake too
Right,
sometimes.
right. But it didn't say anything about
No?
any kind of liquid, did it?
Unadi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there it
Unadi.
is. Okay.
So they put the
this,
milk in.
Okay, so this has to be salt then. And,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Unadi, ale, isa.
Okay.
So milk and
Milk
flour.
and flour.
Osi, an oven, right? Now, do you have I know there are different communities have different word for an oven. Would you use this word or would you use a different
No,
word?
I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't use OSI, but I've heard it, and the reason I've heard it is because when we were doing the language bowl, it's in the list of words.
That's right,
you
yeah.
know, and I had to really figure out, okay, what are they talking about here? And then I remember people said that's what they did for a stove. Gonna war histi.
Gonna war histi, like a warmer upper.
Like something where you warm something up. But if you're talking about an oven, then that's what you're talking about, right? An oven. I think it'd be the same thing, and it could be a different word. There again, the virus is working on my memory there for the oven.
Almost something I've heard it. It's and it has that word bake in there. It's
Yeah.
like something you bake, you use to bake with.
See,
Hui kluggy. Put it in.
Yeah, gonna war histi with lug, and that's to me, gonna war histi is a stove.
A stove,
an
like
actual
the
stove.
stove on
Yes,
the stove
yeah.
top.
it more like, you know, I always think about when we were growing up, Gone to War History would be like when there was, what do you call those stoves that were material. It wasn't metal, it was, what do you call that?
Like cast iron?
Cast iron,
Yeah.
yeah, Gone to War History. To me, that's what that means.
Oh, yeah.
But now for the oven.
Where it had the wood box on the side.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's something about bake. It
Yeah.
really is. It's going to come to me here in a little bit. I'm going to jump in there with that word here.
Yeah, well,
in a
when
little
it comes
bit.
to
Yeah.
you,
Okay.
we'll come back to
Okay.
it. So so this was the song that we did, and I won't sing it to you because it's kind of the tune of Nanny Nanny Boo Boo, or Ring Around the Rosies.
Okay.
So it's not just a particularly beautiful song or anything like that. So, but we went through the words. So
Okay.
Now. Today, as I told you, we were gonna start on a new story, and so we have Miss Peggy here to help us with our story. This story comes from Greece, ancient Greece. A man by the name of Aesop. He collected all these fables. Now, I don't think he wrote them all. I think he probably just collected them, and they were all little stories to teach lessons, right? And so today we're going to do a short little story that came from Aesop's fables. So.
And let me explain a little bit of this before we get started. As we were translating this, we had to find out that we had to change maybe a word because you can't really translate
Word for
English
word.
to Cherokee word for word.
Yeah.
Especially if it's another culture or whatever,
Yeah.
then their whole idea of something might be totally different than what we think in Cherokee. So we kind of had to play with some of the words, but it was fun trying to figure stuff out, you know. So but we did get it
Yep,
done.
I think we got it. And so, we'll talk about it as we go. So this first part says, "Ilahujagesa tali aniskaya nohi anaise." So Ilahujagesa, remember a long time ago, tali aniskaya. Two men. Nanohi, a road. Anaise, they were walking, right? Anaise. So this ai. I've noticed that it comes up a lot in Cherokee. I think even more often than it does in English. You know, that this word ai or the different conjugations of it, or
Right,
whatever you want to
right.
say. So, would you go ahead and read
Okay.
that for us?
Ilahujagesa tali aniskaya nohi anaise.
Okay. So, Ilahujagesa, long time ago, tali tu aniskaya nohi anaise. Two men were walking on the road. All right. So, go geyi uganawa iga gese. Okay. Go geyi, that's spring. Right? Spring. Uganawa. Oddly enough, we just talked about
Yeah,
that word.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
about the stove. You know, because it literally meant something you warm
yeah,
on. You
right,
warm it up
correct.
on. Uganawa iga day gese. Gese. It was. All right. So. That one, I think probably you at home, this was probably a pretty easy one for you. The only word you may not have been exposed to is maybe uganawa. Would you go ahead and read that one for us?
Go geyi uganawa iga gese.
Excellent. Okay. Now, this is an interesting, this, so, degalt gana nanohulti.
Okay.
All right.
Gotna.
Like gunk, right? Like
yeah, right. Yeah, gunk. Yeah.
Gunk.
But it was gotna because
Gotna.
it's of the material.
Because it's not a
Yeah,
person.
right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of flimsy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this, and remember, we talked about that there are certain verbs that in Cherokee are different depending on if it's flexible, if it's long, if it's, and so we talked about huinegi, we talked about huinegi and huinegi, and we talked about huiya and huigi. You know, they all mean go get it.
Right.
It just depends on what you're going to go get.
Yeah.
And so this gotten
Yeah.
is the same, right?
Right.
Because gonk is like a human, like
laying down.
like a person.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, gonk. But when you say that, use the word gonk, you kind of, it could be, well, and it could be the same thing. It was laying somewhere. Laying, not it was, but the person was laying somewhere, whether it was in a bed, whether it was on the floor, on the table. Gonk. They were laying.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's
And then
good.
gotna
Yeah.
is something flimsy or
Right.
flexible.
Right.
Okay. So this degalt is like a sack, right?
Or bag.
Degalt.
Degalt.
Degalt. Degalt. And what literally does that mean? Isn't it something like there's like it holds?
Yeah, you can put something in it.
Yeah, something goes inside,
yeah,
right?
Degalt. Something that you can put something in.
Okay. And then I know there are other words for sack as well.
And our mind just went blank.
Unil tanatoti. No, that's
Okay.
like a purse, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's like a
Yeah.
purse. Unil tanatoti. And then there's like a toe sack. There's another word there, but I can't think of it either. But anyway, degalt is a bag or sack. Gotna.
Okay.
No hulti. So we learned nohi, right? No hulti. At the edge of the road,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, by the road. No,
By the road.
It's by the
like
road.
the word ama and amayulti. You know, the word water and amayulti, by the water.
By the water.
By
yeah.
the water.
Right.
So, but that ulti you can't use with just any kind of
No,
word to mean
no.
by the
Yeah,
something.
I don't think so. You know, but you know, and when I say I don't think so, as I'm speaking words or saying words, it might have that in there, and here I am saying, no, you can't do that, but it could.
Yeah,
I just
it
can't
just-
think of it because you know
Yeah.
when you're speaking, you don't really think. Okay,
Yeah.
this husti could be used somewhere else. You know, so.
Well, I don't
it's
think
just
you could say like uwe ulti or
No,
that-
uwe yusti.
next to the river.
Yeah.
Although probably if
Yeah,
somebody said it,
yeah,
it might make
yeah.
sense to you. I mean, you'd be like,
Because
oh,
you
yeah,
know
I've
it's
never heard it, but I know what you
yusti.
mean.
Yusti means kind of like alongside of something.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. It might could be used somewhere else.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll
Just keep
think
that,
about it.
Keep that in your mind that
yeah.
it could be used. Yeah,
We'll-
yeah.
Okay, so could you read this
Okay.
sentence for us?
Degasti gotna no husti.
Excellent. Okay. Now, degalti munese sawu askaya, or askai.
Ashkai.
Askai. So this word, of course, we have degalt, the bag, munese. This is related to that word huinegi, right? Yeah.
Huinegi.
Huinegi.
Yeah.
That means you go and get it, but this wunese is related to it.
Right.
Because they went and picked it up.
Right. Okay, degasti wunese. It's kind of like the knowing that that bag was flimsy. The verb has to say wunese, kind
Yeah.
of like picking up something that's not solid,
Mhm.
or that's that has to have be flimsy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's say it was like kane sa'i, a box. Would it be wugise? Wugise. He went and picked it up.
Yeah, wugis. If it had something in it, but when people ask me something, I'll say, well, was it laying on its side or was it
Right,
standing
yeah.
up? Because it's not just easily translated.
Yeah.
And you're going to find out that's why I always say that Cherokee is not that hard. It's not that easy to learn
Right.
because there's so many different ways that it can change. Shop, it's kind of like they picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't
Oh,
go
yes.
get it. They picked
Yeah,
it up.
they picked it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the difference in it because it's a box that doesn't have anything in it. It's something that's the shape of it is open.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah would be
Yeah.
to me.
Say they went and picked it up.
Yeah.
What if it were like an apple?
You can still say the same thing.
Wu
Wukise or wutese. Wutese.
Or wukise.
Yeah, yeah. If it's
They went and got
they
it,
went and got it.
other than they
Right,
picked it up.
Right. But once they got it, they had to pick it up.
Right, yeah.
See, again, it's
Yeah.
hard to, just say, okay, this is the word for it, and when you can really add something else to it or use.
But really,
another
we do
word.
that in English too, though,
Yeah.
because like you said, in English we could have said they went and got the apple,
Uh-huh.
and it's just kind of implied that
Right.
it's been picked up,
Right,
or
right.
he went and
He
picked
went
up
and
the
picked
apple.
up the apple.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All
it's,
right.
it's the same thing.
Okay. Would you read this one for us?
Okay. Tegosti wunese sa wuaskaya. Askai.
Askai.
Yeah. Askai.
And again, that's, we talked about how usually in conversational Cherokee, those end sounds, we usually leave them
Yeah.
off unless it adds something to the
Right.
meaning.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Squistosa Adel Delonige De Gatla.
Tegosta.
De Gatla. Okay, squistosa. A lot.
A lot.
Okay.
Squistosa.
Now, we'll get to that in a minute. Adel, money.
Money.
Delonige, yellow money, which is gold. De Gatla.
Tegosta.
De Gatla. It's
They were in that Tegosta.
yeah.
Tegosta. Tegosta. See, and
Yeah,
you can
almost.
use the same thing.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds the same. They were inside the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so now you can literally see where that word bag comes from, because it comes from this verb right here, to be inside something. Because the day lets us know that there's more than one piece of gold in there.
Right.
So squeestosa. Could we use the word squeezed in there and it still be the same, or is there slight difference?
Well, it could be the same. The only thing is when you say squeeze, dosa, that's a lot of not just
So it's even
squeezed.
more-
Yeah,
yeah.
It's squeezed. You just depends on how you say it. Squeezed, adel dalonige degosla, or you could say squeeze dosa, and that makes it sound like there's a
whole
whole
lot.
lot, in there. So how you use it, I think this gives it more emphasis that there was a lot of gold in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So would you go ahead and read that one for
Okay.
us?
Squeeze dosa, adel dalonige degosla.
Excellent. Okay. So now this is going to be interesting. Okay. Adel dalonige de chiwatan.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I found it. Wagosel son askaya or askai. Agwe na
Agwe no.
Agwe no.
Yeah, agwe no.
agwe na.
Yeah.
I'm rich.
I'm rich.
I'm
Yeah,
rich.
yeah.
Okay. So adel dalonige, gold, right? Again, or yellow money. Deji wata.
Okay.
Deji wata. Wagosel. He told them. Son,
So
the other. Askai, man.
man.
Agwe na. I'm rich. Okay. Would you read that one for
Okay.
us?
Adel dalonige deji wata. Wago sele so askai. Agwe no.
Agwe na. Now, this G what? There's a little bit of an H sound in there, isn't it? G what?
G wata.
G wata.
Yeah. Yeah, has a wa sound in there.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Which when you're spell, even when it's in syllabary, a lot of times they don't.
No,
It's
no.
not.
It's not in there.
In there, you just gotta know.
You just got to know, because see, that's another thing when we were talking about reading in syllabary and knowing what you're saying. If you read it and it doesn't have that sound in there, then you're not really going to know. I mean, you're going to know G what, that it is.
Yeah.
But if it has that G what, then you know it has that sound in there to make it.
Yes.
That you found it.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
Gee,
It's
what?
if you're going to write it in syllabary, you have to make sure that you get all the sounds that are in the syllabary on there.
In there
Yeah,
somewhere.
because if you add an
Yeah.
extra in there, you're not going to, it's not going to.
Right. And that's, I think, the difficult thing, especially in reading somebody else's syllabary
Right.
when somebody else writes it,
Right.
because we don't have standardized spelling, which I've told you before. so everybody spells it how it sounds to
Right,
them.
right.
so you may end up, and especially like, for example, the Dikalagadid dialect,
Right.
because they don't use like the cl sound, like I can't even think of an example.
The only
but
thing that I remember when we first went to over to visit with them, Ishka.
Yes.
Ishka, that's what we were saying was the tree.
Yeah.
Let's go sit under the tree.
Yeah.
And they say kluka.
Pluka.
Kluka.
Yeah.
So that was different, but that might not be what you're talking
Yeah.
about. But there are some different sounds that that other places have, but we're not to say, oh, that's not right, or this is not
Right,
right.
it's
This
just
is
a
right.
different-
That's just the way we are. We just have to.
Yeah.
The longer you're around each other, you're going to understand it.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing.
And I think it's the same as
understanding.
in especially previously in English. I know my mom talked about when I was just a little baby, she moved to Massachusetts. And of course she had lived here in Oklahoma all her life. And she said it took her a month just to be able to listen to the news and understand what was going on. They still spoke English, but the English was different
Right,
than
right.
how we talk here in Oklahoma.
I can see that.
Yeah, so she
Yeah.
said it was. She said it
Yeah.
was really hard to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one says "Degal hinata sku degal chinata ijule ini wata degal." Okay, so normally this is not how this sentence would go, but there's a reason why we did it this way. Okay, so degal, right?
He no
No.
he no ton.
He no. No.
And there's a
No,
sound.
ton.
Yeah, he no ton. They got he no ton.
You found the bag. Now we're not talking about the gold anymore.
Yeah.
We're talking about the
Yeah,
bag.
right, right.
So that's why you can't say he huatan.
Right. Yeah.
Degal, because we're talking
Yeah.
about the bag. It
He
has
no
to
ton.
change.
Yeah.
He no
Yeah. Because there was just one bag.
Yeah.
He no ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He no ta. Squoo as well. Degal no ta. I found the bag. I jul
Both of us. Both.
Ini
Ini
no
no.
ta. Ini not.
Ini no.
No.
Yeah.
It's got that w
Yeah.
sound. Ini not. Degal. So I did this for you learners to show you. You can say, you found the bag, I also found the bag. But the easier way to say that is, we found the bag, both. We both found the bag, okay? So this was just to show you how it changes. You, I, and we together, okay? He no ta, ji no ta, ini no ta.
You found, I found, and we found.
Yeah. So normally somebody wouldn't actually say this in a conversation.
Right.
Well, they might.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
might say, yeah, you found the bag, but I also found the
Yeah.
bag. We both
Yeah.
found that bag.
Yeah.
I could say my mom said something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. So yeah, I guess so. Would you go ahead and read this for us?
Okay. They got he no ton. Scoot they got to note. I jul ini note. They got.
Excellent. Okay. Now, I put an alternate sentence
Okay.
in here, okay? So we could have changed that sentence in the story to be this way. See if you can notice the difference. Adele delonige de hi huata. Sku Adele delonige de ji huata. I jul de ni huata Adele delonige. Okay, so did you notice, of course you noticed that this word was different, right? It's not degal anymore, it's adel delonige, which is gold, right? But if you notice here, he not. Here, de hi huata. Different. Can you at home guess why it's different? Give you a couple seconds to figure it out. All right. Can you tell us the reason why it's different?
Because one of it is the he what means that it's solid, something that's solid,
Okay.
and the other one he not is like it's not solid, it's
Flexible.
flimsy, it's flexible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so once again, this is one of those words that changes depending on the object
Yes.
being talked about.
Right.
And then this de, of course, because they didn't just find one piece of gold, they found squeezed, right? They found a lot. So the de means they found more than one piece, all right? And the same here, more than one. That de or di here makes it plural. So I ni hua ta, ji hua ta, he hua ta. Okay, if you're finding one.
And this right here, they need what? Ijul they need what? Ijul they need what? My way I would say it would have a de sound.
De,
Yeah.
de ni what.
Yeah.
De ni
Ijul
what.
they need what?
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So
De
you
ni
know, but
what.
you however how you wrote it is probably how you heard it. So that would be
How it sounds in
yeah,
my
how it
head.
sounds in your head. Yeah. I'm just trying to keep it the sound.
One of the voices in my
sound
head.
is the same sound
Yeah,
as up here, so it'd be easier for them
de
to.
ni what.
Yeah.
De ni what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Would you go ahead and read this one for us?
Adele Talonige, de he what ta. Sku Adele Talonige, de ji what. Ijul de ni what Adele Talonige.
Excellent. All right. So that brings us to the syllabary. Okay, so we did it all in phonetics so that we kind of know, and then we put it in syllabary. So we don't have a lot of time left. Usually I try to muddle my way through it, but I would rather have Miss Peggy read this for us in the time that we have left, and then maybe when we come back tomorrow or in the next class, I'll try to muddle my way through it, okay?
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Ilahi Uchigesa, Totli Ani Skaya, Na Nohi. Ana Ise. This is different than what. Okay. Go gay Uganawa Iga Gesa. Degasti Gotna Na no Hulti. Degasti Une se savu haskaya. Sturdo Squeedosa. Yeah. Squeedosa. Adela Talonige Degatla. Adela Talonige G Deji Wata. Wagosela. Wagosela so I haskaya. Aquena, yeah, Aquena, Degasti, okay, Degasti, Hinauta, okay, Hinauta, and there again,
Yeah,
is
no,
that,
wa.
yeah,
There should be a wa in there, I think.
Hinauta, yeah, okay, Ijul, no, Degasti, Gina, ta, Ijula, Deni, no, ta, Adele, Li, di.
Degasti.
Degasti.
Yep.
Degasti. Okay, Ijula, Ini, no, ta, Degasti.
Degasti.
We both found
The bag.
the bag.
Yes.
Degasti. See? Okay, Degasti. I'm forgetting what we're even talking about here. Okay. Okay, Adela. Dalonike. Dega. Dehi wata. Sku. Adela. Dalonike. Deji wata. Ijula. Deni wata. Adela. Dalonike.
What don't?
Okay.
All right. So, so we again, like I said, reading in syllabary is really difficult to do,
Right,
especially when
right.
somebody else writes it, because the way we would write it is not the way. I always tell people, if you want, if you want something translated, and you ask 3 speakers, you're going to get 5 different ways to say it, and probably 10 different ways to write it.
Right, right.
So,
and so there's a lot of things that people are translating, like old documents
Yes.
that they're translating or wanting people to translate. And I tried to do that, at one point in time. It is difficult to read somebody else's, even meeting minutes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
translate, what they're saying. So
Yeah.
it is kind of hard. But once you kind of have an idea of what the story is about, you kind of figure out what
Helps.
the words are, and it helps with
all
that.
right. Well, good. All right, so that takes us to the end of this class. So you'll be back with us in the next class, and
Sure.
we'll continue
Come
with
on.
the story. And so from all of us here at RSU TV, we want to say Jadok Sostest and Wadon.
Come on, but don't.